Hello everyone, it is me for another review, and it is on Max Payne 1 for the PC. Now you can also get this game on the PS2, PS3 download for the PS2 version, Xbox, Mac, iOS, and Android. Although those versions have touchscreen controls, so I wouldn't really recommend it for this kind of game. Max Payne 1 is a third-person shooter action game developed by Remedy Studios and published by Rockstar. Max Payne is a very, very good game, and if you haven't already played it, I highly recommend doing so. But let's get on with the review. The story goes like this. Max Payne, a member of the NYPD, comes home from a normal day of work when he sees that his home is trashed. He learns that the house was broken into by a bunch of junkies on a drug called Valkyr. And when Max goes further and further into his home, he discovers that his wife and newborn child are killed. While at the funeral of his wife and child, he makes an oath to himself to try to find a way to stop the spread of Valkyr. The plot in Max Payne is very, very, very good. It's not really what I'd call original, but it's very well done for what it is. The way it goes about telling its story is through these comic book-like loading screens. They're very well done and very unique for the time, and in some other cases they just use in-game cutscenes to tell more simple parts of the story, like setting up the setting. It also makes use of very talented voiceovers to progress the narrative. My only complaint with the story is that it doesn't feel as strong or as well written as the other ones, but it's still a very good plot, and it's still very, very well written, and it only gets better from here. The gameplay in Max Payne is fast and fun. It's a third-person shooter with a lot of action in it. One of the things that makes Max Payne different from a lot of shooters, and especially for its time, is an on-the-fly slowdown mechanism, which makes it very, very, very intriguing to use in combat. You also have a diving function, which makes combat even more interesting. While at first it might seem repetitive, the levels do vary a little bit and you will be doing the same thing but in different ways. One of the best things about Max Payne is that the gameplay is very smooth and it's also very, very easy to control. There's not a lot of stuff to remember for keyboard buttons and mouse clicks, but they work well and they're very responsive. My only problem with the gameplay really is that the level design isn't very interesting. This problem can be blamed on old game design, but its very basic level design somehow makes a very hard game even harder. My only other complaint is that the game is kinda short, but this is to be expected for this kind of game, and all the other Max Paynes sort of follow suit. 2 is probably the shortest, but I'll get to that later. And now the presentation. For a 1998-2000 PC game, the graphics are quite good. The level design isn't anything to write home about, but the character models and gun textures look very, very, very sharp, again for a 1998-2000 game. The frame rate is also smooth as butter, and it can be played on basically any computer nowadays, and it's also on 1,000,001 consoles and cell phones. The only problem that I have with the best version of the game, the PC version, is that it has some audio problems. Even if you buy the game, you will have very strange audio glitches that really ruin the experience if you don't do anything about it. Thankfully, fans have addressed this problem with an unofficial patch that you can download off the internet. It's completely safe and it makes the game a lot better to play, because you get the full experience. And on an unrelated note, Max's facial textures look kinda stupid. Overall, Max Payne 1 is a very solid game. It's not the best of the series, but it's definitely an excellent game that you should play if you are a fan of action games or interesting storytelling. Also, across all those platforms, it's a very cheap game to boot. You can probably pay no more than $7 for the game nowadays. And if you're willing to put up with touchscreen controls, the iOS and Android versions are $3. This has been Luminous Fire, and I'll be here again for a review of Max Payne 2 in the somewhat near future.